oak tree. It's probably 200 years old. It looks like, well, maybe 150. It's big. It's about 120 centimeters in diameter. It weighs roughly 2.5 tons. They make for some absolutely gorgeous looking slabs and tabletops and bar tops. We are going to be milling this with the Alaskan mill. That's what I started with a long time ago, and that's what I'm stuck with right now as I'm doing the upgrades on the other mill. So the first thing that we need to do is to make sure we have a flat surface, because we're going to be putting an extension ladder on top, and it's going to be our reference for the first cut. And that's the most important thing when you're milling with an Alaskan, is to really take your time doing the first preparations and ensuring that the rail is absolutely flat and not twisted in any way. But I can see immediately that this hump right here is going to interfere with the ladder, so this has to go. So I'm going to cut that off first. Maybe just a sneak peek. So the first step is to measure from the pith of the tree, or the center, which is this thing, for your placement of the end brackets. These are the end brackets which the ladder will rest upon. And it's important that you measure on both sides the same amount from the pith and up. And if you start at the small end and just measure up until you are an inch or a couple of centimeters down from the top, so that the screws have something to bite into, and then do the exact same measurement on the other side as well. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I'll just take a tape measure, a Sharpie, and just put it right in the crack. So I just make a little mark, and then I just take a screw and I try and place this in the center of the tree. So just screw that in. Now over at the other end, it appears to be multiple piths, which can happen sometimes. But I would say this is the pith. It can be skewed sometimes. It just depends on how the tree grows. They're not always in the center. It could be skewed off to the side or up or down. But we're just going to take the same measurement from here up to here and then place our other end bracket. There we go, that's good enough. And I can put in all the other screws. You might encounter some rotten areas, different logs might have some rotting where the screws will not hold. So that's why I have all these holes here, which gives me some flexibility when attaching the screws. because we are going to be putting a lot of weight on this ladder and we don't want it to move. So these are just made of some extruded aluminum, which are really handy if you need to make any type of contraption. And these have leveling screws on both sides. And these little steel things are for pinching the extension ladder to the top here. So I'm going to unscrew these, and I'm going to use the level again to make sure that both sides are level with each other. If they're not, you're going to have twist in your board. Just because they have such a wide flange here and the I-beam construction type of the flange makes it really strong. So bowing is usually not a problem. And as long as you can take the twist out of your ends here, so they're both in the exact same plane, then you're eliminating the twist and make a really flat surface. And that's going to be really important for your sequential cuts, because this is where it all starts. If you don't get this right, you're going to have to start over. Now I'm just adjusting the set screws to make it perfectly level. Right about there, I think, is good. Now we can lock the set screws in place. Just tighten these really carefully. And I do this on both sides. So now I made sure both ends are level. And another thing I forgot to mention is the angle of the end. If you can imagine a straight line going through the log, then you want to have the ends cut at a perfect 90 degree, well, as perfect as you can get it with a chainsaw. And that's just to make sure that when you screw on the bracket that it's not skewed like this. And you might wonder why I'm taking so long with this initial setup, and that's just like I said before. I want to make this cut as perfectly flat as possible, and you're really setting yourself up for success later down the line if you can get the slabs as flat and as twist free as possible. So you can see we just missed this hump that was here. If I had not removed it, it would have interfered with the bottom of the ladder. The way I lock this in place is just these piece of flat bar, and these extrusions are super handy because they have a slot here and you have a square nut, so you can bolt pretty much anything onto it. So I just slide these on top of the flange and just give it a few revolutions, and on the other side as well. There we go. And it doesn't really require much. It's going to be super sturdy. So this ladder is on here super tight and it's super flat. Just one final thing. I set the depth of the cut to 10.5 inches, which usually works out pretty good with this setup. But I just want to make sure that the bar enters about 1/2 inch or a centimeter below this end bracket here, just to make sure we don't hit the screws or hit the bracket itself. What? That looks to me pretty good. We're about an inch below. So this is looking really good, and this is Swedish white oak.